Hello and welcome to Leaders of Tomorrow, ET Now's dedicated platform for India's micro, small and medium enterprises. The e-commerce boom in the country has created and reshaped many business models, given birth to the new billionaires of India, and has also significantly impacted small enterprises. So on our discussion episode today, we are talking about the impact of e-commerce on the MSME sector. Let's welcome our panel. Joining me in our Delhi studios are Akhilesh Tuteja, Head of Technology at KPMG, and OP Wali, Head Center for International Trade and Technology, Indian Institute of Foreign Trade. Joining us from Pune, Supam Maheshwari, co-founder and CEO at FirstCry, and from Mumbai, Kashyap Vadapalli, CMO and Business Head at Pepperfry. Welcome, gentlemen. Thanks for being on this show from different parts of the country. And Akhilesh, I'm going to begin with you. The e-commerce boom in India is on. The industry is expected to be worth over $80 billion by 2020. How big is the opportunity in this entire boom for micro, small and medium enterprises, the traditional companies that have not seen the e-commerce boom yet?
Vidhu, I would like to say that the MSME, SME or even nano SME have a great opportunity when it comes to e-commerce boom in India. I would also like to say that they've already seen a significant jump in terms of their growth, and they're going to see a lot more going forward. I would like to say that currently there is a big ecosystem of marketplaces in India which allows MSMEs and SMEs to get onto the board without having to do anything. So if you look at it, the three things which you typically need for a business to run, if you go back to our economics classes many years ago, it's about land, capital and labor. And what e-commerce is doing today in India is that it is almost taking away the need for land. You really don't need land. You can have just a virtual land. You don't need a lot of capital because most of these e-commerce activities can be done on cloud. So you pay as you go along. There's a very little money which you spend. And labor is all you need to focus on to make sure that you have the right kind of people with you and right kind of talent. Another thing which it is driving is speed to market. So to me, MSMEs and SMEs have the biggest proposition today to take it because India is so much strong on the marketplace model. So I would say it is great story. If they have seen growth so far, I would say they should brace for super growth going forward.
Wonderful. Supam Maheshwari, I'd like to bring you in at this point in time. You're in the niche segment of baby care products, a market that's highly fragmented and has a lot of small and medium enterprises. In the first 5 years of the existence of your company, FirstCry, tell us what sort of transformation have micro, small and medium enterprises seen as a result of your emergence, and how much do they contribute to your supply chain?
We have, hundreds and thousands of small, medium enterprises who are actually supplying to us in their products, their wares, their brands, and we in turn aggregate the demand, both from our, offline franchisees and online. And that's how we're able to give them the scale and the power to be able to build efficiencies in terms of scale, through scale, from their perspective. So it's a beautiful sort of a model for them to be able to deal with one customer and to be able to take their products all across the country with deliveries only few places. So that's the, I think, leveraging that they have got, and we've extended the model even to nano sort of entrepreneurs who can, like mompreneurs, who are moms who want to be entrepreneurs and have beautiful wares that they would like to sell.
Let me bring in Kashyap at this point. Furniture market, another highly fragmented space driven by micro, small and medium enterprises. What sort of a contribution do these offline sellers have to your supply chain, and what sort of strategic investments are you looking at in the next couple of years?
Sure. So in dealing with small and medium enterprises, obviously being in the segment where there is a high degree of fragmentation across furniture, decor, furnishings. There's a high degree of fragmentation. There are a few large players, but most of the variety of supply really comes in from small players from traditional hubs such as Jodhpur, Jaipur, Mysore, Madurai, etc. We're dealing in this segment, and one of the visions of Pepperfry was really to bring all of these people onto the onto a digital commerce platform, and that's what we've been consciously working towards. So 50% of all of our supply really comes from people who were unorganized, who were really small. When we started working with them 4 years ago, these are people who had annual turnovers which were less than 5 lakhs, less than 10 lakhs. People working with just 1 or 2 labor helping them, artisans working with just 1 or 2 laborers helping them. Today they've grown with the organization, and 50% of our supply, 50% of our sales comes from these kind of small and medium enterprises. The other aspect is really in terms of looking at supporting other small enterprises. We are working with, and we are looking to work with small technology firms who actually bring specific tools and technologies that help us with our merchandising capabilities, that help us with our marketing capabilities, and integrating those tools into our services and offering, and therefore supporting the technology side SMEs on the other side. So those are two really legs.
Right. So that's an interesting point that you make, that all of these, you're helping MSMEs come onto the digital platform. But Professor Wali, one of the concerns of any micro, small or medium entrepreneur in this country who's not seen technology earlier is that the cost is very prohibitive. And it's very recurrent. You need skilled manpower, you need technology cost on a long-term basis. How does a small enterprise really cope with that? And what advice would you like to give to these entrepreneurs?
What I would like to say is, this is a kind of a challenge, a mental challenge. But, there is where these marketplace players are actually working at the grassroots level, trying to create that kind of an awareness and bringing them on board. And I think it has been happening last, say, many years now. And this, the inhibition has been actually, on the decline over time, and more people are actually coming on board. And the numbers are actually growing, as you can see from various reports. There's a huge growth that is happening. But at the same time, I would say that this is just evolving now. The earlier inhibitions which were there, now there's a second level of challenge that is really happening in the marketplace. Initially, because there was not much of a clutter on the marketplace, so it was, the inhibition would really get, addressed by participating in the marketplace and getting some kind of an sales realization, and you see that it is happening, and more people are actually joining the fray. But what's
the sort of cost benefit that these companies should be seeing that they're not?
So there's a growth, there's a size of the market, and there is the ease of really doing it. You just have to register with the website as a marketplace and get listed your products, and can just manage your supply chain with the help of the marketplace. That is what they are doing, Snapdeal, Flipkart, etc. And that is the kind of benefit these say SMEs have, or small players can have by using this online marketplaces. But as far as the cost is concerned, there is a reduction in the cost that would actually happen to a traditional player, but there are still certain costs which are there. That is, you will still have to manage your backend, say warehouse management. You will have to address the packaging part of it. You will have to address the customer returns and queries, etc. So you have a different kind of service that goes into playing online vis-a-vis what happens with traditional. But if we look at various reports, still there is a close to 50% of reduction in the total cost of operation.
Right. Supam, some of the challenges that Mr. Wali is talking about, the packaging challenge, for instance, or the customer service challenge, how much of that is taken care of by a player like you when you tie up with small enterprises?
So here our supply chain is slightly different. Here what we are doing is, I think the biggest benefit that a supplier gets really is they get to supply at few points. And since you're a wholesale cash and carry format where we have 140 physical franchisee stores all over the country in almost 90 cities, so we actually get all of that into our warehouse and then distribute. So I think the suppliers, which is these SMEs or micro SMEs, these are all getting benefit to supply at only few locations. They're only dealing with one customer, and their entire focus is on dealing with them, and through us they're able to reach millions of customers, whether online or through our own firstcry.com physical stores as well in cities. So I think there is a huge cost benefit analysis working in favor for them in terms of sort of a supply chain that otherwise would be very difficult to manage when they were dealing in the traditional format, where they would probably work with only offline formats, and each one will have their own sort of nuances in terms of returns or payment collections and so on and so forth. Here it's all combined, consolidated in one. So reduction of cost due to economies of scale really is the big benefit that they get. And yes, Mr. Wally is absolutely right in terms of packaging. There are few changes that they really have to innovate over time to be able to accommodate this kind of a format, and for the overall streamlining of the supply chain till the product reaches to the end consumer.
Right. And Mr. Kashyap, from your perspective, from the perspective of a marketplace, how important is the geographic location of a seller? How much of your supply chain decision depends on the geographies?
Sure. So there are 2-3 different models that we follow when we are serving these small SMEs and helping them to come online. One of the models that we follow is what we call a completely managed marketplace model, in which case typically we have a processing center which is co-located with the merchants or with the manufacturers, small manufacturers, in which case we work very closely with them to bring the products into our warehouse. We help them with the packaging, we control the entire packaging experience and also subsequently the shipping experience. So it's important for some of our new to the online arena kind of merchants to be co-located with our warehousing center, because we help them with all the steps that are involved in getting the product to the end consumer. But we also have models where we make arrangements for our logistics partners to work directly with our merchants. So the merchants in this case, and these are typically more evolved merchants, people who are dealing with slightly standardized products. So the packaging, etc., is not as complex. So in which case they can be anywhere in the country. They don't necessarily need to be co-located with our processing centers. So they could be anywhere, but we arrange for our logistics partners to go pick the item up from the small manufacturer or small merchant and get it to the end consumer. Yeah. So really we follow both models.
Okay, wonderful. So on that note, we are going to take a short break at this point. On the other side, we'll talk about the opportunity in the online export market and find out what a small enterprise has to do to become a seller on a reputed e-commerce portal. Stay with us only on ET Now. Welcome back to Leaders of Tomorrow. On the show today, we are talking about the impact of e-commerce on MSMEs. Mr. Wali, in China today, the largest e-commerce marketplace has about 7 million sellers. So the opportunity is huge. In India, what are some of the best practices that you think we can pick up from China? And do you see the online export market opening up in India as well?
Right. Our interaction with the exporters, because as an institute in the education of global trade, we have been interacting with exporters. There is increasing awareness and the use of internet. That is first thing. And people have been actually trying out Alibaba platform since last, I believe, 7-8 years. And even now, if you see the other than China, the largest number of participants in the Alibaba.com are in fact Indian exporters. And as far as the kind of the practices that we can really pick from the Chinese experiences, that working at the cluster level. It is happening with the domestic marketplace. I believe most of these players are actually trying to engage in the clusters, say it Tirupur or say it Surat, say it Ludhiana or Agra, in different areas of lifestyle products. So same has to be actually worked out for the international market. And because in international trade, you need to work on a scale. Otherwise, it is the trade in a packet, which may not really have that kind of a bigger play. So to really play big, you need SMEs to really work in a kind of aggregated, say, framework. And there needs to be some kind of orchestration by, say, players who could be like in the coming times, the players who are already in the domestic marketplace, or it could be some other player which could actually adapt not the replica of the model what has happened in China, because China has its own culture, the way the sellers and the buyers actually interact on the market platforms. So we have to really do some kind of adaptation and really work it at the cluster level.
And Mr. Tuteja, globally, cross-border e-commerce is a major revenue opportunity for MSMEs. With respect to India, what sort of policy initiatives, what sort of combined initiatives from the government and from large e-commerce players and from the SME sector itself is required to really make this a success?
I think from an India standpoint, there are certain things which possibly are right now being worked out in terms of how the whole ecosystem can work. One is clearly on the stuff around custom duty. There's whole stuff around how do we distribute stuff from India to other parts of the world. So I would say there are a number of pieces of puzzle which need to be worked out both by the government and the industry for the export model to really take the shape where it goes. But I would say in the meantime, there's a huge opportunity on the domestic side which is out there.
Right. Talking about that domestic opportunity, Supam Maheshwari, tell us, if a micro, small or a medium enterprise wants to get onto the bandwagon of the e-commerce portal, what are the few do's and don'ts that you're looking at as as an e-commerce player to bring these people on your supply chain?
I think what we do as a filter, we've been contacted with almost, I would say, tens and hundreds of suppliers every day that you can empanel them. So I think the most important point that we are looking for is the quality of products and the reliability of scale that they can actually build over time with us. Because either of the two, if they don't have quality of the products and consistency in quality, and then once they are able to prove that initially, they have to be able to scale. Either of these 2 or 3 things, if they is missing, we don't actually empanel them. So this is very, very critical for us to be able to see that as a backdrop before we bring any new SME, MSME, or any supplier on board. And this is in everyone's interest, especially from a customer's perspective, because at the end of the day, I think we all want to be ensuring that the customer is getting the best possible product, the good value for their money.
Do online transactions through e-commerce players also have a role in creating the brand of that particular seller? How much of a role does the reputation of Pepperfry, for instance, rub off on your sellers and vice versa?
I think that really depends upon the kind of model, transaction model that the platform is using. For example, in our case, at this point in time, when consumers are purchasing on the Pepperfry platform, they know that they're buying from the platform, but they don't necessarily have, at the time of buying, they don't necessarily have full visibility into who the small merchant is. That's because we are a controlled marketplace. We control the inventory that comes on to the platform, and because we do those checks that are required to bring the particular merchant on board, and we don't necessarily showcase the merchant on page itself. But once the transaction is done, right when the actual post-transaction experience begins, while we control and facilitate the entire process, the packaging, the information that is flowing, actually the merchant has an ability to impact that. And when the consumer finally receives the package, they obviously will get information, invoices, etc. from the merchant, and therefore they know who exactly they're buying from at the time of the post-transaction experience, but it doesn't really happen on the site itself. That's because of the model that we follow, which is a model of a controlled and a managed marketplace, which is the reason why we make it easier for the consumer. We don't really confuse the consumer by showing multiple merchants, etc.
Akhilesh, how does an e-commerce player ensure that all the sellers on its platform sort of live up to the ethos and the culture that it wants to build?
This is actually one of the foundational capabilities a good marketplace has to have, and I would say that many players in the Indian country have already, because as Kashyap was talking about, when they're buying from Pepperfry, they really don't care who that small person behind it is. So it is the platform capability and platform reputation which they buy it from. So most of the large marketplace players have what they call the code of conduct as to what is the minimum code of conduct with respect to product quality, quality assurance before things go out, customer service, return policy, and many other things. In fact, that has been a great driver for the entire industry to get better, in my view, because you're now dealing with people who are possibly not as quality conscious as they were in the past, but because of the marketplace capability, they all have gone to one level up. And in my view, this is a great boon of this whole thing, that the quality of the product is going up. The second thing is that this is putting the whole power in the hands of the consumer. So it is allowing the consumer, given the liberal return policy, given the strong merchant control policy which we have. So I think the platforms are doing a great job with respect to controlling the merchant. In fact, some of them are doing to the extent that people are saying that the merchants are crying because it's becoming that good. But I would say, as a consumer, it is all happy times.
Great. And last words from both of you, Kashyap and Supam. I'm curious to know, you're both companies who built the online presence first and then came down to brick and mortar, and you are keeping up the pace on developing the brick and mortar stores as well. So would you say that no matter how much e-commerce this country gets, at this point in time, the touch and feel habits of the Indian consumer are hard to break? Supam, would you like to go first?
I think this goes back to 5 years back, when it was a day zero strategy for us. Very clearly, if you see any part of the world, whether it is US or Europe or anywhere in the world, except for let's say South Korea, where the e-commerce penetration is very high. Everywhere else, I think it's not even 10% is the customer base is actually buying from e-commerce. The rest 90% is still buying offline, and especially when these are highly networked economies. So India is like a little far away. I would say far away. So it'll take like next 5 years probably to be able to call ourselves, we'll be 80-85% still remain offline. So we didn't want to lose that sort of a market opportunity, and that's why that's one primary reason why we got into this offline so early. So our first store came in within 6 months of our operation. And the second reason beyond that is actually it's a whole touch and feel. That's very, very critical. I'm sure Kashyap will also agree on that, is that the whole touch and feel experience is something that you can't take away from a certain set of customers who yet to join fully on e-commerce bandwagon. So they may start their journey with offline stores, they may come online for certain products, or it can happen the reverse way as well. So they can start with online and they can go to an offline store, and in the entire process, they have the trust of the platform, whether it's offline or online, which is what is building, and able to rely on that platforms in terms of the overall trust of whether it's products, quality, design, and so on and so forth. So that's why we got into this strategy, and we are really reaping the benefits of it, and we'll continue to provide options to the customers.
Okay, and Kashyap, at Pepperfry, what's the strategy going to be going forward? How much of your investment, what's the investment ratio going to be between online and brick and mortar?
We are an online company. Online will be the significant majority channel for us. The reason why we actually opened up the Pepperfry Studios is, like you rightly said, depending upon the kind of products, and when you're really talking about furniture, which are high ASP products, 15 to 20,000 rupees on the average, going up to 1 lakh rupees, they're also highly differentiated. They're not standard products. They're not like a phone or a t-shirt or a shoe. So really, images on the website will give people a certain sense, videos on the website will give people a certain sense, but the actual look and the feel of it, people would really get it when they're able to see it physically. So we think that there are a lot of consumers who need that additional look and feel before they're able to take a decision. So that is one of the reasons why we have Pepperfry Studios. We are going to have Pepperfry Studios in all of our key markets to be able to provide people an area where they can come and interact with the product. The second objective of our studios is really to provide design inspiration. We think a lot of consumers don't really know what exactly they want to buy when it comes to when they're doing up their home, and our studios actually
so you're
provide
sort of helping them decide
exactly
what goes well with their homes and make the decision-making process easier.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you. Thanks for joining in, Kashyap and Supam. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining in on Leaders of Tomorrow. Well, that brings us to a wrap on another edition of Leaders of Tomorrow. We'll continue to bring you inspiring stories of entrepreneurs as well as expert advice through this show. You can reach us, you can write into us at leadersoftomorrow@timesgroup.com, or use social media. Just put in the hashtag LOT and reach out to us, or call us on the number flashing on your screen. Thanks for joining in. Goodbye.